Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AFO podcast, the first ever. Jesus Christ, I'm bright. What is? There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever rendition of the AFO podcast. You're joining me on Thursday, the 12th of March, and we're going to be kind of making this a weekly sort of thing. Very, very unofficial. I'm literally just going to be sitting in front of the camera and chatting, and sort of just talking a wee bit about what's going on in the AFO season, some things to talk about, like regarding the league, what's going on ahead, because obviously I've noticed that there's a lot of what was the word? We've got a lot of people in the channel subscribe to the channel, and then we've got a lot of people in the server, but there's quite a bit of a disconnect. So I thought, like, hey, well, a lot of the information goes into the Discord. I think we should try bring it out to the viewers on the YouTube as well. So, in case you don't know who I am Mano Manikandan. I am the commentator, the league owner, and I am also the owner of one of the teams in League One. So, I'm quite excited to talk about just stuff in the league. There's a lot to talk about, so we'll get right into the nitty and gritty. So, obviously, first of all, we'll talk a wee bit about the stuff that's going on in the league, like races wise, and then we'll bring it on to like more like league, like actual like admin stuff, because I feel like that's stuff you guys need to know going as well. So yeah, but yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, all that jazz, and we'll get right into it. If you like this kind of stuff, leave a comment down below, and I'd love to get your thoughts. So yeah, so the first thing we'll start off with is obviously if I'm to whip up the championship standings. Well, we obviously know that Jaap has now taken first place in the Drivers' Championship once more. A good showing from Austria, because obviously I'm on the pretense that we are voiding Imola, and whatever happened in Imola, we're just forgetting about that. And we will be rerunning Imola next week. This week is the Bahrain Grand Prix, and next week is the Imola Grand Prix. We'll be rerunning that. So 3 more races left in the season. However, what we can talk about right now is obviously Jaap taking the 5 points, the gap heading into Bahrain this weekend. It's unclear whether the Blue Ridges will be participating this weekend, but I'd imagine they would be, at the very least, fielding Jorge, because that championship it's close. It's hella close, and I don't think he'd want to be giving that up just yet. So yeah, 5 points that separate the two drivers, and these two have been clashing, and all sorts of stuff has been going on. I think towards the start of the season, we weren't really sure if it was going to be Jorge to be maintaining it in for the long run, but it's really kicked off now. We had a massive accident in turn 1 of lap 1 of the first race in Austria between Jaap and Jorge. As Jaap took out Jorge, he then got a time set penalty, Jaap, and then lost the race as a result to his own son, who has now taken that opportunity to leapfrog into third in the standings, because Evan was disqualified into race 2 because he had a drive-through that he was supposed to serve because of him jumping the start, which he then didn't serve because he said it wasn't coming up on his screen. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on there, and you know, it's always very. Me personally, as a commentator, I want to see all the cars finish the race. I want to see everyone racing quite well. But yeah, it wasn't really the best. Let's just put it like that. Best display. And to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, this season hasn't really been that season. It's not really been the greatest season in AFO history. We have had quite a lot of shambles, and we've had quite a lot of bad racing standards, more to say. So I think, yeah, it's not been great, but we will try our best to sort of bring the gap closer to the racing standards, make it a bit more cleaner. And yeah, so yeah, obviously let's talk a bit more of the championship. We've obviously got Bahrain coming up, we've got Imola, and then we've also got the season finale at for now, it is the Roval, the Charlotte Roval in America, because these are Indy Lights cars, and we would like to finish the season in the USA for this season. But St. Petersburg is being thrown around in the discussion, as well as Daytona, maybe even Singapore. So there's quite a few options. I'm sure I'll be open up to the community soon, but you're hearing it from me here first. So yeah, it's definitely a close battle. And I think Jaap and Jorge, they are two very, very good drivers in their own right. Jorge's got insane pace. genuinely, I have to be honest and say that Jorge has been the better driver over the second half of the season. It's just been sort of mistakes and bad luck that sort of put him out of contention of this title here. And Jaap has, I think, a start of the season very strong. He's always a good qualifier, but in the race, it's always Jorge who's putting in the faster lap times, and that's allowed Jorge to get closer to Jaap. And he was leading for 2 of the races, but Austria just hasn't been great to him, and neither was Donington, to be honest. Donington, where he finished 14th, that was a massive points hit. I think if he finished that race in the points, this would be a lot closer. So, just goes to show, like, and the thing is, it could end either way. Jaap he has made mistakes this season. So 5 points is really nothing, in my opinion. If you want to assume you are on the back foot. That's the only way you can sort of keep a vision ahead. So, yeah, I think that's definitely something you want to be debating. Is the debate of who is winning the drivers' championship, and I think if I have to put it down to just like if I was betting my money, and like I am the chairman of the league, all right, there's no like this and that, but if I had to put my money, I would say Jorge. I think Jorge I think he'd be a lot further up if he didn't have that issue at Donington, and if he didn't have Imola chalked off the first running, and if he also didn't have what's it called? If he didn't have the collision in Austria. Jaap, very, very, very skilled driver, very sound driver. But I think Jorge may just edge him out. It really comes down to the variables, and then that's where the variables is where I'm going to go into next. I think that Jaap would maybe edge out Jorge if he had just a more reliable teammate. Now, this is no shade to Jacob Formey, no shade to James Knox or Karim Yacoub, the 3 pilots who have driven that second Sony GP car this season. And I think if I have to give it, I think I think James has been the closest one. Obviously, that was sort of a one-off appearance for him, and he sort of didn't really show up afterwards. He came to the Imola rerun, I think, for Meyer GP. More on that later. But yeah, obviously that was chalked off, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, I think because we've got Evan in P4, obviously Evan very, very disappointed after Imola being chalked off, very disappointed after having that disqualification in the second race in Austria. And I think without those, he would be up there as well. So there's still 3 races to go. I really don't think you should put any of these drivers in the top 4. I think maybe Petar is a bit of a stretch. But yeah, that's definitely something you should look into, 100%. So yeah, I think Sony GP not having a driver, as in a second driver to come and support Jaap with this title, is ultimately maybe what's going to be his undoing, unfortunately. And that could in turn make Jaap want to move to a different team. He seems very loyal to Sony GP. Anytime the conversation even floats for him to move another team, there was talks with Meyer GP, if you even want to call it talks, but I think Jaap shut them down pretty quickly on. He seems loyal to Reds. I'd be surprised if I see him moving next season, but obviously if he loses his title because of a lack of teammate, that could be a reason for him to switch. So, because at the moment, he is the sole reason that team is currently up in second in the constructors. It's, the 10 points added on by the 3 other drivers who've driven his car really don't add too much. So yeah, pretty outstanding from Jaap. But yeah, I think that's my take on Sony GP. I think Blue Ridge, obviously they announced they don't want to be racing anymore in Season 4 going forward, obviously just because of the standards of racing, the sort of the Imola being chalked off, obviously being brought back for next week. But I think just a lot of shambles in that aspect just kind of made them not want to show up. And to be honest, like I'm no one to judge. I think you only race here if you're having fun, and if you don't have fun, it's important to put your time elsewhere. So definitely. But I honestly, I'm so happy that Blue Ridge gave it this AFO a chance, and as things are going, they're going to win the constructors. Unless Sony GP or Vega Sport pull something out of the bag here, they're going to win the Constructors' Championship. So, they've came in, they've won it, and if Jorge gets his drivers' championship, they've won it all in Brawn GP style, and they're leaving on a high. So, really setting the standard for AFO and the league in general. Let's talk a bit more about some of the other teams. Let's talk a bit about Vegas Sport. Obviously, Vegas Sport were initially saying they were going to pull out as well after what happened in Imola. But I think, in my honest respect, I think they're staying on. They have a very ambitious project for season 4 to try and be a front runner. I think they'd like to see that out. I don't think Simon will be racing in the Bahrain race. I'm not entirely sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah. So I think Vegas Sport, they've got an opportunity to take P2 in the championship here. Let's see how they do it. And Simon's got an opportunity to close the gap if P1 and P2 have any more shambles, and he capitalizes in Bahrain or any of these next 3 races. Simon is in the chat. He's in the discussion for the championship. So it really, really could go either way. Which is what really excites me, because we've still got 3 races to go. It's gonna be exciting. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to be here Saturday 6 p.m. UK time, because this is going to be a round that definitely decides a pivotal stage in the championship for sure. However, let's talk a bit about KV as well. KV Motorsports, obviously Antoine Capon's team from France, very, very solid team that just unfortunately just didn't get going. They had so much bad luck in the opening stages with Ryan Hawke and Petar Prentić, both equally good drivers in their own right, and many podiums, many good results that were just marred by bad luck, often being taken out by other people, often being ruined by track limits. There was an instance in Zandvoort where Ryan got stuck in one of the walls, and that was a bit of a heartbreaking moment, because it was like that wasn't really his fault. So yeah, it was definitely something that I think could be looked into. But, what can you do, to be honest? However, what they have done is sort of bring that pace. They've sort of kept hacking at it. And Ryan obviously hasn't been able to race too much because of religious reasons, because of the month of Ramadan. However, Petar Prentić has now clawed his way back into P5. And you got to remember, this is a guy who was being in the contention for the championship last season, in Season 2 with SRT. And he's now brought... Obviously, KV's had a pretty difficult season, but they're still in P4, They've brought it back. Petar's now into P5 in the championship. He's obviously nowhere near Evan to be making anything, but he currently maintains that position, and if he keeps his nose clean, that'll be a good finish for him after arguably not one of his best seasons. It'll be interesting to see if he rocks up to Bahrain. I'm not entirely sure. But we'll have a look. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Where is my... I can't seem to find my cellular device. So what we'll do is we'll pull up... the good old Discord, which you can join in the link below. I will leave the Discord open. It should also be on our channel bio, so make sure to come around over there. So yeah, anyway. So we have got the... I think let's talk a bit more about the standings. We'll just sort of whittle through the Constructors' Championship. So obviously OFB, Out for Blood, which is Oj Rimkuna's team. Unfortunately, Oj got banned for misconduct in the Discord. However, his team obviously still keeps the points. So no one drives for OFB anymore. That team isn't on the grid anymore, but they are there. So they keep 80 points in the championship because of the efforts of Jacob Formy, who obviously now is a contracted Sony GP driver. And yeah, so not much to chat about there. Below OFB is Dini Erdon Group Aeron, which is Drauzino Fernandino's team. Obviously, they consist of just at the moment Dan Thine and Lucas Dantes. We saw Lucas in the last race in Austria. And while he was just he was just within the points. He was constantly getting beat by Hax Fatash in the Tiger Sport. But there's potential. I think build the guy up into a better driver. He will be there. And Dan Thine, I'm not entirely sure if we'll see more of him. He seems to be very on and off with his sim racing commitments, but I'd love to see more of Dan in the ending of the season. Kuiper Darkstar Racing in P7. So Kuiper Darkstar obviously is Simon Pavlik's team. right at the start of the season, they were sort of taunted to being like 10th and 11th. Honestly, they were nowhere. But coming into the season, having made the changes, having brought in Stan Von Dutch and Joshi Mandelbaum. Joshi, by the way, who has been such a pivotal driver in KDR's success right from the season's get-go. There was many times that he could have left and could have just said, like, this isn't for me, I'm not feeling it. Sorry, Simon. But he's stuck with the team despite having like not the best start to the season. He's always been finishing towards the tail end of the points, but it just goes to show how that compounds and snowballs over time, because all of that work has now got Cooper Daxar 58 points, and Stan Von Dutch finishing very close to the podium in Austria definitely helped with that as well. Joshi and Stan Von Dutch, a sleeper pick for the midfield, honestly. And I think if they started with that lineup right at the start of the season, they would definitely be further up the field. So yeah, it's pretty impressive, and I'm excited to see what Simon and Simon and Co can do. And then we get to the very bottom of the field. Obviously, my team, Tiger Sport, or as it's now known, Camber Powerhouse. So obviously, big news in the sense of Camber coming back to the grids. Camber, if people don't know, were the Season 1 Constructors Champions, also fronted by me. It was the team for the official YouTube channel that I also run, which has been a bit dormant at the moment, but I'm looking to bring it back. And obviously I thought it was time for a change, time to sort of, the Tiger Sport era is kind of dead now. It's time to bring back Camber. And I think it's going to be a good season, a good way to end off the season. Arda Güler, not the football player, but apparently just some other Turkish legend that we've now signed. A wonder kid in his own right. It's going to be a bit weird to talk about my team in the third person, but let's give it a shot. So obviously Arda Güler and hopefully Alex Diaz racing in the Camber Powerhouses on Saturday. Arda showing good pace on the live timings. I've yet to see from Alex Diaz. But yeah, it's definitely maybe not the start. This season has been abysmal. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been abysmal. A Tiger Sport team that finished in 4th. If I can pull up the records from Season 1, Tiger Sport finished P5 in the championship with 65 points last season, and that for us was not the best season. We thought we would capitalize more with some key signings, but unfortunately the season has just gone so shambles that we've only gone 8 points from since the season started. However, Hax Fatash being able to step into the car on very short notice and being able to just go in and collect points when necessary has really saved the team, and that's why we're in ahead of Meyer GP at the moment. So definitely very grateful for Hax Fatash and his work. But hopefully going into Bahrain, Arda Güler and Alex Diaz can whip up something magical. I think as long as they finish in the top 10, we will be able to solidify 8th, which is not what I wanted to say at the start of the season, but it will be the best way to end off what has been a pretty sad season. Then we'll go on to Meyer GP. Obviously sat in 9th. They took over the team heading out of Austria, and they've yet to finish an official race because obviously Imola was chalked off. So technically we will be seeing them debut for the first time properly in Bahrain. So yet to see what happens. I mean, Murat Goodman is yet to drive a race in the Meyer GP car, and we're yet to see who is his teammate. We're about to speak on that at the moment. We'll go into a bit of driver rumors and driver drama as well, but we'll get to that. Then obviously we've got SRT in 10th. No clue what's happened to SRT, to be honest. It's just been a bit of a shambles since Gawa Snow, or Mr. Snow, or whatever his name is, came back into the fray. Honestly, like, it's difficult when you're starting with 2 new rookies, and I think Cash Aiello's having to just sort of steady the steed by himself completely, and it's just not been the greatest season for the Constructors Champions, or the reigning Constructors Champions. So I think it's difficult, but SRT should be. I would love to see them in the next season with the new cars, which, by the way, everyone is feeling very confident for, very excited for. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so SRT currently ahead of Sky Clan. Sky Clan, honestly, with just 1 point to their name, that too being scored by one of their reserve drivers, arguably genuinely the biggest disappointment in Sky Clan. I think this regulations just haven't suited Fred and gang. Obviously, we've got Noah Sparks coming back for the first time since like an early retirement in season 2, which was sometime in December, like September. So it's been like a good 6 months since we've last seen Noah Sparks in a car. So we'll be seeing him Saturday in Bahrain. So obviously make sure to come and watch him. Noah Sparks, very, very strong driver, led a number of races. I don't know if he's won any races. He's definitely scored some podiums though. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And I think that will definitely be a threat in that sort of lower midfield chase between all the teams from Tiger Sport to Sky Clan. So. But yeah, it's not been the greatest season for Fred. I think he'll be happy to admit that, and I think he's just ready to sort of let the season go and move on to the next. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's sort of the chat for the teams at the moment. Let's go into a bit of the driver chat. Obviously, we know exactly what's going on in the Drivers' Championship. We know that who's to play for there. Looking a bit down the line, Petar Prentić sort of leading the rest. Ryan Hawk in 6th with 56 points, and Jacob Formey with 48. However, closing in on that is Murat Goodman, who's only 3 points behind Jacob Formey in 8th. And then the rest is just sort of, there's a lot of people just sort of there scattered across. And obviously, you can check all the Drivers' Champ standings in the official Discord server, which will obviously, like I've been screaming down your ears for the last 5 minutes. It'll be in the description. So make sure to go check it out there. But yeah. I think final bits of news before we get onto like the league side of things is obviously Mason Clark making a bit of a shock switch to Vegas Sport. I'm not sure if that's the move, just coming from like me, because I think Mason Clark's got hard work ethic. You always see him rock up to the races and try his best to get into the 107. I think that's the point I was then going to make afterwards, is that he struggles to get into the 107. So I think Vegas Sport, if they can unlock some sort of potential from the Meyer GP departee, it will pay off for them. But not entirely sure what the sort of the thought process going into that. However, Elliot does tend to have a good eye for talent, so I'm definitely backing him, I guess, in the sort of like, I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but this is definitely on the side of his more riskier choices, that's for sure. Other than that, that's about it for the team news. So yeah, let's go a bit into the side of the league. Obviously, it's been pretty aware that throughout the course of the season, nobody's been a big fan of the racing standards. No one's been a great fan of the cars in general. Obviously, we elected to have like a sort of democracy and sort of let people choose the cars they wanted to race in. And Indy Lights was the one that came out with the most votes. But unfortunately, it just seems that that's not really paid off and people just haven't been enjoying it. It could be a car issue. It could be a car on track issue. But it's just not made the racing fun. And yeah, so I think going into next season, into season 4, we will be switching into GP2 2007 regulations. Most likely a calendar themed around the 2007 GP2 season. And that's had a lot of drivers excited. We've had a lot of teams making liveries. We've had a lot of teams signing the drivers for next season. And even the teams that have pulled out, they have said admirably that they will still make sure they are there for next season. So it just goes to show that, like, you know, an Indy Lights car just hasn't really been people's greatest. They've just not really enjoyed it as much. And I guess it's trial and error, right? I mean, this is kind of why we do this. But yeah, and that's kind of why we shortened the season as well, because obviously I think another 6 races in these cars, I think people would just want to kill me at that point. So we've obviously brought it down by a unanimous decision. But yeah, so that's that with car news. I just totally understand. I don't want to make people race stuff that they don't want to race in. So that will be the season ending with 3 races to go. Obviously, there will probably be a vote, like I mentioned earlier, for the season finale, because I want people to make sure that it's a track they can also choose on. And yeah, I think going forward, real penalty, first ever time. We should hopefully be using that. I am in talks with the guy who has the mod. He's asked me to send him a DM. I literally just saw it pop up on my inbox about half an hour ago when I started this podcast. So I'll be getting over to that shortly and then making sure I can fire this DM off to this guy and get him to get real penalty on our server, man, because the amount of manual stewarding I've had to do is, and Evan and the guys, and Antoine and all of the stewards, the amount of manual stewarding that we have had to do. And you know what? Saying we is a bit of an insult. It's mainly just them. So hats off to the guys, the stewards, the Evan and Antoine and Petar and stuff who do that work, because it's hard work. Obviously going into this race, no more driver stewards. So, but that doesn't change the fact that that is hard work, and I genuinely could not thank them enough. So, yeah. And then finally, I mean, just I'm sure there's more. I'm definitely sure there's more. There was a lot more that I had written down, and I'm now struggling to pull that document up. But I think it's just like, from me, it's genuinely just get excited for season 4. Get excited for the season finale, because those two things are going to be massive. We've got a lot coming up for season 4, and the season 3 finale is definitely going to be insane. Is it going to be controversial? Possibly. Is there going to be a lot of arguments? Possibly. But is it going to be one hell of a show? Definitely. So definitely make sure you check that out. Definitely make sure you come and you watch those 3 races, because the promo for that shit is going to be crazy, man. So, yeah. Other than that, driver news, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, Noah Sparks coming back is sort of the headline coming into this regarding the driver transfer market. What is going on outside of that, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I think that's really about it. We'll obviously be here next week for the Imola rerun, for our podcast then. We'll obviously be online we'll obviously be streaming on Saturday for the race. So make sure you're awake. Make sure you grab your popcorn, and make sure, if you'd like to get involved in this league, we've got all the space in the world. I promise you, we've got all the space in the world. We'd love to have you here, and we'd love to get you on board. So yeah, that's about it from the AFO podcast. I'm gonna try use the next 10 seconds to think if there's anything else I need to go over. Is there anything that comes to mind? Is there anything else? Yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for giving me your attention. That's probably half an hour of your life you're never getting back. But if you want to waste more time like that, I'll be streaming this time again next week. So, thank you, and goodbye.